Hello and welcome, Dota fans, to episode 3 of FletchDota. I am, of course, Fletch, your purveyor of infinite wisdom throughout this journey that many refer to as the metagame. How's everyone doing tonight? Guys, everybody here, everybody's ready for FletchDota episode 3. We're halfway through our first week of broadcast. I am super excited. This is a project that I've worked on and now I'm actually doing it. I think that's the most important part. Whatever you set out to do, actually do it. So a lot of people come out and, there's a lot of people that are all talk. They want to talk about things. When you actually have to sit down and put the metal to the grindstone and get everything actually ironed out, then they're nowhere to be seen. And it's like, hey, didn't you have that great idea that you were talking about? So I have this idea. I wanted it to work, and here I am actually doing it for all of you. We have, of course, what is today? Wednesday, episode 3 happens on a Wednesday. We'll hit episode 5 on Friday, and that'll be my first full week. And if I get through 2 weeks, that's how long it takes to make a habit. Or at least that's what people say. And, conventional wisdom, how conventional is it really? You never know what you can trust. But they say 2 weeks makes a habit. So I'm going to assume that if I do this for 2 weeks, it'll be a habit. I'll never forget about you guys. And I'll always do FletchDota. That's at least how I envision it in my brain. But as of right now, we are halfway through week 1. So I'm super excited that this is all kicking off right now. And maybe I can look back 5 weeks from now and say, hey, we're going to finish the first month of FletchDota. Of course, I've got a lot of international stuff coming up. I mean, I'm really excited about that. We've got ESL 1 coming up on Friday. I'm going to have a lot to talk about going into ESL 1, I am sure. And then, of course, Monday, when we do our next weekend recap, everything that happened over ESL 1, I'll have so much to talk about coming into next week. So really, really excited about that. And that actually brings something up. I am extremely surprised this entire month when I saw TI4 coming around the corner. So probably about 2 months ago, I said, oh, tournaments are going to slow down now while we all wait for TI4. Nothing wants to conflict with TI4. It feels like the past month of June has been the busiest month of Dota probably since tournaments have started happening in Dota. Like, I'm not going to count the individual tournament of the International 1, 2, or 3, but as a month overall, and just tournament-wise, I feel like we've just had, 3 or 4 huge tournaments and a bunch of medium-sized tournaments all back to back to back. It feels like every time I turn around, the Chinese teams are just duking it out in another $15,000 tournament here or there. And it's like, oh, DK won, IG won, Newbie won. And actually, on that note, we did just get an update for the V games. I was talking about this yesterday. Hey guys, go watch the V game finals. DK did come out on top in the V games. And who did they come out over? Newbie and IG. IG, what was it? 2 days ago, IG just came out on top of DK. And then right before that, it seemed like Newbie was winning everything. These teams are still neck and neck running for these top positions. So DK walking home with $8,000. And it seems like maybe 4 days in a row we've had tournament finals for these teams. They are really grinding it out, getting ready for TI4. And I expect some big things to happen from these teams. So really, really, really excited to see these teams constantly playing against each other and really ironing out their skills, just honing their skills to perfection. And I mean, that's probably the most generic way to describe Asian Dota, or I should say Chinese Dota, because Southeast Asia is different. It's a different meta than Chinese Dota, but Southeast Asia is a little bit different. So Chinese Dota, meticulously planned and crafted, is how I would personally dub it. So a lot of people look at it and they look at these teams playing for 50 minutes, and you've got maybe 10 kills in the total game. The problem is you've only had 10 mistakes that anybody can punish in the total game. You've got these teams that have, it's like there's team fights every minute. But the team fights, everybody has such perfect positioning, nobody gets called out in the team fight. Everyone walks away with 100 HP, and you're like, whoa, what just happened here? I saw a bunch of action, and nobody's dead. How is this possible? But everybody is playing at such a perfect level, it's really hard to punish somebody. And so it's like you gain a little bit of ground at a time against these teams, and you just keep pushing and pushing and pushing, and eventually you push down their base at 50 to 80 minutes, which is kind of a boring way to watch things. But I saw an interesting analogy. I almost said analysis, but analogy between Dota 2 and football slash soccer for all of us Americans out there. And I think, now that's something I want to bring up. Soccer, everyone's like, oh, Americans call it soccer. Soccer is actually a UK term, but then the UK caved into the world and they're like, well, if everybody else is calling it football, I guess we have to call it football. So, you know what? America didn't come up with soccer. We're just using the term we were taught by the UK. UK just happens to be a little bit wimpy when it comes to world politics, and they want to just kind of, oh no, we don't want to be the odd guys out. Maybe you should man up a little bit and just call it soccer like you used to. I'm just saying. But there's an interesting analogy between the World Cup and Dota 2 that I saw some people talking about. It was one guy was a Dota fan and the other guy was a World Cup fan. And they were talking about if me, just your average Joe who doesn't follow soccer, watches a soccer game, he's going to be like, what are we watching? It's like it's 50-minute game and they've scored 1 point. And I've often said that to myself, like, what's going on here? But then the soccer fan started talking about it. And he was like, every little thing that adds up to that goal is actually what you're watching and enjoying. And that made sense to me. Because when you say it like that, that's what I'm watching in a Dota game. I'm not watching Dota for, some kill every 30 seconds. I'm watching it for the meticulous nature of these teams to perfectly play out their strategy and watch these strategies clash against each other. Now, it is always exciting to see a lot of the more aggressive teams just go out there and get a bunch of kills. It's nice to see a guy go 20-0 or something insane like that. But at the same time, when you're watching these tier 1 teams at the top level play, it often isn't like that. Oftentimes you're watching something and then there might be a moment where a team wipe happens because somebody just suddenly got the upper hand and they took advantage of it and they seized that strategy. And that's the big goal you see in soccer. But a lot of times that isn't happening. It's laning phase, 10 to 15 minutes. You've got a guy farming the lane. You're like, well, that's boring. But he's progressing into his items and you're watching his items build up and you're like, well, how does this Vladimir's fit into his play style for this game? What kind of strategy are they looking to execute? How are the supports rotating to make this strategy be successful throughout the mid game? And I think if this kind of discussion or this discourse can happen about Dota 2 with people who aren't familiar with Dota 2, if they can start to see, instead of, hey, what's this game about? Oh, this looks kind of boring. I mean, what's this guy even doing? He's just sitting there last hitting creeps for the first 10 minutes. How is that exciting? If you can start to get them not interested in the individual aspects of Dota 2, but the overall strategy meshing together and coming together for the grand scheme of things and how it ultimately ends up with them pushing towards that final kill on the Ancient. I think that's how you really have to open people up into the world of esports or into Dota 2 specifically. So really, really interesting way I saw somebody talking about it. And I was like, that really makes sense to me. So it kind of gave me a little more respect for soccer / football. I've never been a fan. I played it some. I always enjoy playing sports. I played intramurals in college. I actually enjoyed playing on a soccer team. Now, I got carried, guys. I was not good at soccer, but I'm not afraid to man up on someone. So they put me on defense and I just get in people's way because I didn't have any footwork to control the ball. For those of you who actually know anything about soccer, but I could kick it in a general direction to one of my other teammates and I could just stand in someone's way. So they put me on defense and I did okay. I was like a 3K MMR soccer player. My teammates, 2 of the guys were state. They were state soccer players all through high school. And they come in there and they're like, okay, here's what we're going to do. You stand here. If anybody comes over in your area, just get in front of them. And then they pretty much would just pass back and forth and go down to score goals. So that was intramural soccer for me in a nutshell. And then, of course, we had one guy playing goalie that was really good as well. So I think we lost 1 game that entire season, and it was to the college's rugby team. And those guys were all like 7 foot tall, and their shoulders were like 6 feet wide, and they all weighed 300 pounds of solid muscle. And it was like, what do I do? I stood in front of him and he walked right through me and I'm like, well, okay guys, GG no re. I felt like the team with 5 carries and they were just, they had 2 solid carries and a mid that was just ganking everybody. But I've always enjoyed playing sports, and a lot of times it's been hard for me to spectate sports But this kind of makes the difference for me. I think if you think about it more as the strategy perspective, and it makes me wonder, what is somebody who doesn't play Dota? How do you help them understand to not necessarily respect Dota? You don't need people to respect Dota, but for them to enjoy Dota while they watch it. And it brings me back to something during TI. I don't remember if it was TI2 or TI3. It may have been TI2. I think it was TI2. My dad, I had Dota actually on my big screen TV in my apartment that I shared with my brother. And my dad and my mom were actually at our apartment. I don't know why, but they were there for a week. And they came to visit us. And we were just playing. We just had Dota TI2 playing on the screen. And he was watching, and they were picking Tiny in the games. And he was like, "What's that guy?" And so we told him what the guy did. And we're like, and he's like, "Oh man, he just grew bigger." And it's like my dad got super excited only about Tiny. He watched, I think, every Dota game, and he was just watching for more Tiny picks. And they picked Tiny a bunch, so he was really happy. My dad hasn't played video games since like Nintendo. I remember when I was maybe 4 or 5 years old, we had a Nintendo and we had Zelda on the Nintendo. And I remember my dad staying up one night, just like not even sleeping that night because he was beating Zelda. And so like we got up in the morning and he was finishing it up and he beat the final boss and we were all super excited. So he hasn't played, I don't think, any video games since then because he was always so busy with work. And here he is watching Dota with me and enjoying it because, hey, it's Tiny and the rock dude's wrecking people. He just tossed somebody in there. Hey, he's got a tree trunk now. So you kind of, there's opportunities to bring people into Dota and let them enjoy it without having to make them understand what's going on. And I think that's going to be important coming into TI4 because there's going to be a lot of streaming going on in the public. Pub stomps are about to be released by Valve. For those of you who don't know what a pub stomp is, that's going to be where you basically gather at a bar or a LAN center, big public event where you just go and watch the internationals. You hang out with other people that are there in your big city. Maybe there's one near you, and you just hang out and enjoy. So all these pub stomps are about to be released. I've seen messages from Valve where, hey, we're about to release all the information on pub stomps. We're signing up so that everybody knows where the pub stomps are. So when that happens, if you're in a bar, that's a very public location. Lots of, people just enjoying themselves. They wander into the bar and they're like, "What's going on? What? Y'all are watching a video game on TV?" And that's when the opportunity comes to bring somebody else into Dota 2. And let's say we get 1 million viewers again, 1 million people watching Dota 2. And let's say maybe 200,000 of them are just out in public watching somewhere or just, in some sort of interaction with other people. Let's just throw it out like that. All of these people, and this includes Seattle, all the people wandering around Seattle for TI4. And everyone's like, "What's going on? Why are all these people playing video games here in Seattle?" That's opportunities. If every single one of those people talks to one person about Dota, I mean, your audience just grew by another 200,000 people. That's a pretty significant number. So there's a big opportunity for growth during TI4 because it is a $10 million tournament. Now, well, it's not officially 10 million. Let me go ahead and cover TI4 prize pool for us. We got to get that out of the way. Let me just go ahead and update the page. 9.952. So we are less than $50,000 away from crossing the 10 million mark. Now, $10 million, you're like, what is that? What does that mean in Dota 2? Gama Sutra released a really good article on the Dota 2 prize pool and how it compares to a few other things. So if I pop over here to my screen for you, US Open golf tournament. Everybody knows about golf. Like, that's just like the sport to be a part of if you want to earn money. Guys get rich being good at golf. $9 million US Open golf tournament. So we have passed the US Open. Competing League of Legends tournaments, 2.05 million. That was an entire season for League of Legends. And there's various other tournaments that are a lot smaller than this. For example, tennis tournaments. You look at some of the tennis tournaments. Tennis is pretty popular worldwide. What's actually the prize pool? I'm going to Google this really quick. Is there a prize pool for the World Cup? I'm sorry if I offend anybody by asking that. Prize pool of the World Cup, FIFA World Cup 2014. Holy crap. Okay, we got a ways to go, I think. I don't know if I want to say this, but like they have a 1.5 mil participation fee. Okay, and then of course the total prize money is 576 million. So we got a ways to go for that. But we're getting there. We're working towards it. Maybe TI5. Maybe TI5 we hit 600 million and pass FIFA. But maybe I should just close that and not talk about FIFA anymore. That kind of just rained on my Dota 2 parade for just a little bit there. But yeah, for that Gama Sutra article, I will go ahead and drop that in the chat if you guys want to read the Gama Sutra article. It's nice to see these aren't Dota 2 websites. These are video game and news websites, and Dota 2 is making the news. That's what we want. We want Dota 2 growing into these other areas that generally don't have Dota 2 involved. They're just like, oh, Dota 2. You know, most video games, if you think about a video game, you think about a review. You know, like, for example, I used to have an Xbox a long time ago when it came out, and I used to read the Xbox magazine. I don't even remember what it was called. But basically, a game came like this. Let's say Assassin's Creed came out. There was a review on Assassin's Creed right before it came out. They'd be rated out of 10 stars. They'd say what was good about it, what was bad about it. That would be it for Assassin's Creed. I am sure every single one of these sites had a review on Dota 2 when it came out. Why are they still talking about it? Because we are making waves in the esports community and in the sports community as a whole. I think you can include esports into sports. People consider these guys in some circles as athletes, even though they're not working physically. Well, you know, how much do you say physically? I mean, they're not necessarily working out like, you know, mainstream people would consider muscles. But I mean, it is physical work to be sitting at a computer doing something, and the concentration it takes. That's a lot of work. Like, a lot of people, I think, look down on the race car drivers for like Formula One and NASCAR, but concentrating on a road at an extremely high speed for a long amount of time, I can't even imagine what level of concentration you require for that. Because I know what it takes, like, when I decide to just go down the road at, 95 miles an hour. And it's like, if I take a road trip for several hours at a time, I'm exhausted when I get done. I'm like, man, I'm tired of driving. Those guys do it. How long do you drive for one of those races? I know I had an uncle that was really big into NASCAR. And you're like, classic American, NASCAR. No, my uncle was really big into NASCAR. And here's what I remember of him watching NASCAR. He would turn it on in the morning. They would start lap one. He would watch the first maybe 3 or 4 laps. He would take a nap. He would wake up, watch a few more laps, eat lunch, take another nap, wake up, and watch like the last 10 laps as they finished. I mean, there's so much time between the start of a NASCAR race and the end of it. Formula One, I think, is the same way. I think those races are really long as well. There's also those other drivers, but all of that is like it's a mental sport when you get into that. And it takes a lot of concentration to be able to do that. Athletes out there on the field in the soccer games takes a lot of concentration to really focus on your game. So all of these guys are athletes, and they're working different muscles, but it's muscle memory, it's concentration, and it's really knowing the game that you play. And I think it's interesting that throughout history, we really just focus on these guys that excel at games. I mean, we had the gladiator games, the old Olympic games started up in Greece. There's various other sports activities that have been played in arena styles. From every single culture. The Mayans had that little hoop game that they played. I don't even remember what it was called. I just know they tossed things through hoops on the walls. So maybe it's like inverted basketball or something. Who knows? It's kind of like a mix of soccer and some other things. It was a really weird thing to see, but they played it somehow. So we've been playing sports forever, and it's just like we've evolved from playing physical sports to now we can make our sports virtual, which means we can have these huge clashes, these huge wars for fun, and enjoy them without any bloodshed. Dota 2, very violent game if you look at it. Like, Lion walks up and blasts Lina into oblivion with his finger. If that happened in real life, I mean, that's even worse than a gladiator game. You're talking about just an exploding human body covering the Colosseum. And that's not something people nowadays would want to sit through, but we can enjoy it in a video game in the safety and comfort of our own home. And that's kind of how Dota 2's grown out. And I kind of got off on a tangent there, but that's why we're in the news. We're not just in a video game review anymore. We are now actual news going out across everything. And esports is like the next step from sports. And sports was like the step from actual combat. So it goes combat sports and now esports. I feel like this is the next wave of personal entertainment for people, and it's only going to get bigger from here. So I'm really happy that Valve is choosing to be on the forefront and pumping in a lot of money to start things off. You know, they dropped what, $1.6 million on TI 1, 2, 3, and 4. Just threw it out there and said, we're going to make it big. And it's grown. They put it in on their end, and it's growing exponentially for them. And there's actually a prize pool tracker. Kudos to Confusi. He actually threw me a message. I've always told you guys are always welcome to give me feedback. There's Twitter. You can send me a tweet on Twitter. I read the notifications when I get them. You can send me a message on Twitch. That's really easy to do. Or you can email me, masterfletch@gmail.com. Those are the 3 best ways to get in touch with me. Twitch is kind of weird now with their messages because the other folder. And so I don't even know if it's going to, like, I have to check all 3 folders to be sure I get all my messages. It's really hard to tell on Twitch. So maybe that's the lesser of the 3, but Twitter and Gmail, I do definitely check before the show. And Confusi actually sent me a link, Dota 2 prize pool tracker. So it's really cool. If you want to see the progression of the prize pool, when immortal items were added, it jumped up again. So it's kind of cool to see that. They've got the adjusted predictions. And as you go along, you'll see right here that, like, we're supposed to, I think, hit $11 million by the end of it. It looks like we're getting pretty close. Let me follow the blue line. And you know what? I'll actually throw it up here so you guys can see me following it. So right here at the tip, I think this is supposed to be where we get TI4, assuming that they add some really awesome goals. Like right here, I think is around where they added the let's see, when they hit 7 million, that's when we got more stretch goals, right? So they added more stretch goals, they added immortal items, and it gave it a kind of boost. So I wouldn't be too surprised to see another boost right about here. And so we'll definitely end up somewhere in between the pink line and the blue line. Pink is actually their, it's just their model. I think it was a logarithmic model. I'm not entirely sure which model they decided to use, but they've got a whole bunch of different models that you can follow on the line. And the current prize pool, of course, is following model number 3. But along with that, I think we do stand a chance of crossing $11 million. So that's pretty cool to see. If you guys want to check that out, just a little prediction coming out. Something else, TI4 news, really big news. Visas, we talked about Arrow Gaming and CIS getting denied. They both went back for seconds. Arrow has heard back positively. They have had their visas accepted. They said, you know what? We get it. You're coming to play Dota 2. You're not just coming to play any game. You're not just coming to play Super Mario Brothers. You're here for serious business. This tournament's huge. We will give you a visa, Arrow Gaming. CIS, we're thinking about it. So CIS went and turned in their second application. They reapplied or whatever. They're waiting to hear back still. But Arrow is in the clear. Arrow is on their way to the U.S. internationals. They will be here. We will actually get to have Arrow Gaming. So for those of you who are Arrow Gaming fans, if you're out there, Southeast Asia's little guys coming out for, I think they're in the wild card. Are they in the wild cards, or did they actually finish in first? I feel like they're in the wild card match, but I could be wrong. Either way, Arrow will be showing up. So kudos to Arrow getting the work done, making sure that they can show up. Now, on with that, let's see, I was talking a little bit earlier about DK and Newbie and LGD. I've actually got it laid out here. Their last tournaments. So we've got 4 tournaments that have happened, I think, in the last week. And in tournament 1, we actually had DK 3-2 on Newbie in the grand finals. And then we have Invictus Gaming 3-1 over DK. Newbie coming in 3rd place, so rather than 2nd place. Then we have Invictus Gaming 2-0 over Newbie. DK coming in 3rd place to Newbie in the semifinals. And now we have, what did we just finish up? V Games, and DK beat out Newbie 2-1. Invictus Gaming came in 3rd place. So they're swapping around constantly, and right before this, I think Newbie actually beat all of them out, but this is just like the past 4 tournaments. So don't be like, oh, but Newbie didn't win any of those. They were swapping out in 2nd and 3rd. And what you need to realize is when they come in 2nd and DK comes in 3rd, or IG came in 3rd, that means Newbie beat them. So Newbie is beating these teams, even if they didn't get first in one of these tournaments. They are beating these teams. And along those same lines, we do have ESL. I do want to give you guys some more ESL news. ESL, really, really big. I mean, this is important to me because this is like the big lead into TI4. This is our next big exciting match, and IG is coming for it. IG will be at ESL. For those of you who don't know, I can't reiterate that enough. I always want to make sure everybody knows IG is going to be there because I love IG. I love watching IG. They're my favorite Chinese team. But Dota 2 news coming out for ESL 1. Fnatic actually tweeted out Excalibur will be showing up at ESL 1 with their Dota 2 team. So for those of you who wondered, is Excalibur actually part of the team? Well, he's playing ESL 1, and I'm assuming he's playing at TI4. If they didn't kick him before ESL 1, I mean, this is the big preparation. And ESL 1 is quite the grounds to prepare for TI4. For those of you who don't know the format of ESL 1, this is basically what the first bracket looks like. And this is single elimination. I think it's best of threes all the way through, and then a grand final best of 5. Yeah, best of threes all the way through, but it's single elimination. You get one shot. There is no losers bracket. You don't come home. Or you don't come back. You go home. Game 1, Alliance versus Cloud9. Game 2, Mouse Sports versus Invictus Gaming. Game 3, Vici Gaming versus Fnatic. Game 4, Evil Geniuses versus Na'Vi. We have big names that are going home right in the first round. These are teams that don't go home in the first round. They go home in the semifinals. And they're going home in the first round. Whether it's like Na'Vi versus EG, somebody's going home from that. I mean, you can't tie and both move on. I think... What else do we have? I think Mouse Sports versus IG. I really want to see how Mouse Sports stacks up against these big teams. Mouse Sports is one of the hyped teams right now. Everyone's like, oh man, they're doing so well. Let's see how they do against IG. Let's give them some Chinese Dota to play against and see what happens. I mean, worst case, they lose, but hey, they can look over to their right and either EG or Na'Vi lost as well in the first round. So, you know, you've got friends in the high places right there. Alliance and Cloud9. Alliance, another team I am really excited for going into ESL 1. Alliance has been playing phenomenally the past couple of weeks. And now we get to see how they stack up in at ESL 1 Frankfurt. Along with the ESL 1 stuff, ESL Gaming actually released a really cool interview with IG as they're coming into ESL 1. So they actually went through and questioned all the players and asked them a lot of in-depth questions. So, for example, they talked about Chuan returning to the team. Now, me saying Chuan, you guys have to realize, I was casting IG playing games, and it took viewers so long to get me to say Chuan correctly. I still probably don't say it perfect, but I started out as, let's see the progression of Fletch's Chuan pronunciation. It started out as Chuan, I think. Chuan. I think I was saying Chuan at first. That was like the first week. And they were all flaming me. They're like, no, they were trying to tell me it's Chuan, but I started saying Chuan. And they're like, it's one syllable. It's not two syllables. But I was saying Chuan. And so I was getting these little messages that was like CHEW and then a hyphen and then ON. They were like, Chuan, making fun of me. People kept giving me feedback though. And I was like, okay, I got to say this correctly. And I started saying Chuan. One word, but I can finally say it. So you guys have to understand, when I say Chuan, when I pronounce that in this interview, that's a big deal for me. I worked hard to be able to say that. And so I'm just going to pat myself on the back right now for that one. But earlier this year, Chuan returned to the team and Luo joined your squad as well. Then suddenly the results in major tournaments went back to your TI year in 2012. What did those two bring to the team? So a lot of insight. This is a very good question from ESL. IG responds, the team had a larger variety of roles, where Chuan is an aggressive support while Luo has well thought out plans, which increases the choices of strategies available for the team to use. So very in-depth look at what goes on in the minds of these guys. What do these players actually do behind the scenes? Because a lot of times you see what they do in games, but you can't hear what they're saying to each other. They've got those soundproof headsets on, and it's very you actually hear team communication. I think that's a really popular thing that a lot of people say, that a lot of people hear in a tournament. They're like, oh, like I think Fnatic has done it a few times with Raid Call, when Raid Call was one of their sponsors. I'm not sure if Raid Call is still one of their sponsors. But for a while, they were doing the little team stream or whatever, where you could go check out the alternate stream, and you would actually hear them talking to each other. And people love that kind of stuff because you don't know what's going on behind the scenes. You just see the big play. You don't hear the guy that's patiently going, okay, guys, to our left, there's 3 heroes moving in. I need you to move up to the right. I need you to back up some, and we're going to bait this out and see if they'll pull into the tower. If they don't, we need to back out right away because we're not looking for a 5-man engagement or something like that. I just blew some stuff out there. I don't even know if it all made sense together, but that's the kind of stuff people don't often get insight into. And so interviews like this are really exciting to see coming out from these organizations because you get to see behind the scenes. You get to see what these players actually bring. Like, for example, with EG, you get to hear about Peter Pan PPD. Do I have to call him PPD? Is that his name? Like, is that officially his name down, or is it just abbreviated for ease? Is he still Peter Pan Dam? I really don't know, but I'll call him PPD for now. PPD, when you talk about his drafting and how the team contributes to it, he does a lot of interviews where he talks about that and discusses how they come to a lineup. That's really insightful for somebody who wants to understand what it takes to be a professional player, where they need to look and where they need to go to. So this ESL interview, very good information coming out from IG. For all of you IG wins, I'll go ahead and link that for you. Great interview coming out from ESL Gaming. I think it's definitely worth your read if you got the time. I mean, there's no reason not to read the information if it's out there, other than just being out of time. I mean, if you like esports, if you like Dota 2, and you want to get your Dota 2 fix, go out there and read these kind of interviews as they come out. They're definitely They're definitely worth your time. For example, ESL, YYF, you're also the team's captain. Do you do all of the shot calling in game, or does someone else take the lead? So aspirational information for little captains who want to be big captains. You're like, man, am I supposed to just say everything that needs to happen? Well, let's see what YOF does. Great captain. Maybe he's got the right way, or maybe you can at least just glean some information from it and learn from him. During most matches, the team works together by exchanging opinions and ideas. Everyone gives their opinions, and if it's something the entire team agrees on, we then execute it. So there you go. He doesn't just sit there and say, this is what we're going to do. He discusses it with his team and acts as a conduit for what the team as a whole is going to do based on what the team as a whole desires. I'm sure he filters out some of the stuff. Like, for example, for those of you who aren't familiar with the semi-rivalry in Na'Vi, you hear about it all the time. Puppy and Dindy. Dindy's always shouting in Puppy's ear, pick me Pudge, pick me Pudge, pick me Pudge, or something along those lines. Some crazy hero to go mid with. And Puppy's like, no, Dindy, no. He has to filter it. Or then, in some teams, you hear about the player that's like, okay, let's kill him, let's go in. And you got somebody else standing on the team. No, look, we're gonna do this controlled. You need to back up a step. We can't go in yet. Look, just come back by the tower. Let's group up, let's smoke, and let's do this right. You got to have somebody to rein in your wild card sometimes. And that's what being a captain means as well. But finding these interviews where they actually discuss it, it's nice to hear it from their own mouth. Because at the end of the day, people like me out there who are spectators, ultimately, can only speculate on what actually goes on. We're armchair generals when it comes to Dota 2. These are the guys actually on the field. You can come out and actually ask YYF what he's doing. YYF, you play Nature's Prophet a lot and still manage a 72% win rate. Any tips for other players on how to get better with Nature's Prophet? Goldmine of information. Nature's Prophet is an all-rounder hero with strong tower pushing abilities and strong late game potential. A good user of Nature's Prophet will bait the opponent into specified space while giving his teammates opportunities to overwhelm their trapped enemies. Players should be fully aware of his potential as an adaptable hero. Baiting heroes in with Nature's Prophet. How do you do that? But that gives you something to think about. And maybe along the way, you'll find other heroes that talk about how they specifically use Nature's Prophet, and you can combine all of the information together to use it for yourself. I'd like to see an interview with Admiral Bulldog that really goes into his Nature's Prophet play. I think he's regarded as the best Nature's Prophet worldwide, and rightfully so. The guy won TI3 with Nature's Prophet. Teams ultimately, Na'Vi at the very end almost became able to deal with it, but they straight up played their best heroes and just outplayed the enemy teams. And I really respect Alliance for that. And it looks like, going into FSL1, we will see Admiral Bulldog back on Nature's Prophet. They nerfed Nature's Prophet and made it really hard for him, but he's learned how to play Nature's Prophet again. Not his old way, but he's made a brand new playstyle. We saw, I think, a Blink Dagger and Maelstrom coming out from him. He was, I guess you call it blinking and slamming, just like Anti-Mage. But that's Admiral Bulldog's new playstyle. He said, how do I make Nature's Prophet fit with what Alliance needs to win? And that is what you have to do as a professional player. You have to adapt, because every time there's a patch, if you get nerfed, you can't just die out, or then you're useless and team's going to have to get rid of you. Admiral Bulldog has adapted to the newest patch, and I think he's in top form for TI4. I was really doubting whether he would be able to do it, because seeing his Nature's Prophet and what it was after TI3 and all the nerfs, it was kind of sad. It was like, well, that's his best hero, and what happened to it? And I hope to see more Lone Druid coming out of him too. I'd like to see his Lone Druid adapt and survive, but we'll see if it happens. It's certainly probably going to pop up at some point. I mean, there's so many games that are going to be played in the group stages. What is it, 16 teams playing against each other? That's 256 total individual matchups divided by 2, because there's 2 teams in a game. So that's what, like 128 games that are going to come out in just the group stages alone. So there you go. And TI, like in those games, we've got to see at least some Lone Druids popping out. I think. I would hope. I hope we see every single hero in the pool. Might not necessarily happen, but maybe we can. So on top of that, we've got all these. I've been talking about all of these big tier 1 teams, and I haven't talked much about one of the most powerful teams over the past 2 months, who just kind of quietly snuck up on everybody, and that's Team Empire. These guys have been just quietly climbing the ranks and beating top tier teams over and over and over again. The current lineup of Team Empire is so strong, and they are definitely a contender for TI4. I would not be surprised at all if you came up to me and you told me any team, like if you said, oh yeah, Team Empire won TI4, I wouldn't be surprised. I would be like, oh man, yeah, did they? That's awesome. But I wouldn't be like, how did Team Empire win? No, they are definitely in a very good position to win the entire thing. And just recently, Dota 2 Champions League Season 3 has wrapped up, and Empire came out on top. And this isn't, you're like, oh, Dota 2 Champions League Season 3. Well, who was in that? Was that just a bunch of Tier 2 potato teams? Well, let me just read you first, second, third, and fourth. First place, of course, $33,000 prize, by the way, for coming in first. The total prize was almost $70,000, so this wasn't a tiny tournament. Team Empire came in first. Second place, Fnatic. You're like, oh, well, okay, yeah, that's Fnatic. Who cares if they beat Fnatic? Well, let's look at third place, Alliance. Other invited teams in the event, Nodus Vincere. I'll just call them Navi because I probably butchered the second half of their name right there. Navi, EG. We've got Virtus Pro. You got Roxkiss. You got NextKZ, Relax. Meet Your Makers. I'm sorry, guys. I shouldn't have read that. Dream Team 168, which is PGGs, and Power Rangers. So those were the qualified teams, by the way, the last 6. But we had Empire, EG, Alliance, Navi, and Fnatic all playing against each other. And Empire came out on top. These aren't nobody teams that were the invited teams. So definitely much respect for Empire just coming out on top. They are, of course, it was a 5-game series, and it was 3-2 for Fnatic. Now, not only does that tell me, hey, Empire's in really good shape, that tells me Fnatic's in good shape. And that's exciting because the past TIs, Fnatic, you expect Fnatic to beat a team like Navi or Alliance, but you expect them to do it once. In a best of 3 series, you expect the other team to come out on top. Fnatic's always the underdog, and the fact that they took Empire 5 games in a best of 5 means that Fnatic is in top shape to compete with these guys going into TI4, and that's exciting because they really weren't in TI3 or were they in TI2? I don't remember if they were in TI2, if they'd come from Han yet. I really don't. I'd like to say that I don't think they made it to TI2, I think is what it was. They were just starting to play in tournaments and everything. Maybe that's what it was. I'll have to go check on that. But going into TI4, Fnatic is ready to compete with these teams. They beat out Alliance 3-0 in the round 3, which was also a best of 5. That was a shutout against Alliance to make Alliance come in third. And Empire then 3-2 for Fnatic, so they took 2 games off of Empire. And Empire is one of the highest ranked teams right now. So Fnatic is still hanging in there. You can't just drop them out. Now on the Empire fan train that we've got going on here, there has been a new series that started back up. I think they were doing this a little while back, and I think it's done on Hitbox. For those of you familiar with Hitbox, it's the Own 3D guys. Before Own 3D went under, there was like the CEO signed a bunch of contracts which completely ruined On3D. For those of you unfamiliar with what happened to it, a lot of you guys might remember that a lot of teams used to stream on On3D. It was as big as Twitch, and then it just went under. No, everyone's like, what just happened? Where'd On3D go? And the site wasn't even there. Well, one of the high-ranking executives at On3D, I think, got a bunch of the equipment, and he has started up a new site, Hitbox. He said he's learned from the mistakes that happened at On3D, and he's going to try and remake a streaming competitor for Twitch. So he's out there building this new site, and they have been running this tournament that they call King of the Hill, which is just like big name teams matching up against each other. The current King of the Hill right now is Empire. And coming up tomorrow, they're going to be matching up against Navi US. Now, the reason I want to talk about this match, Navi US, North American Rejects, are the qualified team from North America. They had to earn their place in TI4. They did not get invited. But after earning their place, they were picked up by Navi. This is their chance to play against one of the TI4 contenders and really show us what they are worth. I think this is going to be an important match to watch, because this is going to be like a signal of, hey, how ready are Navi US or Navi North America? What do I call them? Navi NA? I'm not sure if they're Navi US or Navi NA. I've seen them called both in different websites, and they're actually called Navi US on Navi's website. So we'll call them Navi US. I'm assuming that Navi's correct on this in their little blog post. But they are playing in the King of the Hill tournament tomorrow. That's going to be versus Team Empire. So this is your chance to see how ready they are for TI4. And then, of course, you've got all the other teams on Friday to watch in ESL1 to see how ready they are for TI4. So coming into TI4, we're going to see a lot of these teams of the 16 teams coming in. How ready are they? And what exactly are we going to be seeing? Are you guys going to actually give us some real Dota? Or are we going to have an MUFC this year? I hope we don't. I hope we see every single team out of these 16 teams ready to compete, ready to take games from other teams, ready to make upsets happen. I want to see teams getting knocked down into place when you don't think they should be there. I want to see teams coming out on top of the group stage. You're like, where did this team come from? So we'll have to wait and see. But Navi US or Navi North America, whatever you want to call them, will be playing Empire, and that's a start. On top of that, we've got the World Esports Championship still in the news. I have an update for their prize pool that I wanted to go over. The first press release said $800,000, but they've actually updated it. It is a $320,000 prize pool. Oh man, that's so tiny. Only $320,000. So, but World Esports Championship, that's kind of a minor addendum to previous information that I had. $320,000 prize pool. It's coming up here. What date is that actually? Man, a lot of this is in Chinese. September 6th to September 8th is when so it's going to follow the international. But so right after the international, we're going to have these teams coming back, playing in a huge stadium in China, and they're going to be playing for $300,000 more. So that is nothing to frown at. Although some of the teams might be tired after TI4, or maybe one of the big teams wins, walks home with $1 million per player. Then you're like, so why do we want to play for $300,000? But I don't know. Maybe they'll still do it. Maybe they'll fulfill their obligations. We can hope. We always want to see more Dota. So after TI4, things are not going to get quiet. You're going to have the big shuffle that always happens after TI. I really like that. I like that all the teams get shaken up and they're like, how do we correct this? We need new players. And they all just throw their players out there and they're like, everybody's a free agent. And everyone's just snatching them up. And so we're going to have the big shuffle, but we have big tournaments coming out right away. I mean, there's been over $1 million in tournaments already just in this month of June. And following TI, we're going to have multi-$100,000 tournaments happening. That is a lot of money in Dota 2 that's coming out here, not just in TI. It's not all concentrated like you would expect it to be. On the TI note, though, we do have, or I'm sorry, this is actually on ESL 1. I was talking about, what was I talking about? I was talking about Fear coaching EG. Winner actually announced he will be going to Sweden with Alliance as their coach. And on top of that, you might be like, well, we know Winter's been coaching Alliance. He's not just coaching them for ESL 1. He has made it official. He cannot cast for the international because he will be going with them as their coach for that as well. So Winter is the official coach for Alliance for ESL and the international. And I really like how they're doing this, how they're giving teams coaches, really making them look like a team. This isn't just 5 guys playing together anymore in Dota 2. This is an organization backing 5 men on a roster with a coach behind them, giving them strategy and advice and advancing them and training them and producing something real for us to watch and enjoy. And that's what it's going to take to be respected as an official event, as an esport, rather than just as a video game. You got to say, look at what these guys are doing. And free to play really put that out there. I think that was a good start from Valve, but we've got a lot of work to go to make this more professional than it is. Because at the end of the day, esports is very laid back when it comes to professionalism. There is not a lot of professionalism in esports. And that's something that has to be fixed. When you've got these young players that are very talented, they're going to have to learn to be professional at a much earlier age than, say, I had to learn to be professional. When I was 18, I wasn't professional at all. And sometimes, even now, I'm not professional. A lot of times I try to be in what I do and what I say, but sometimes I just lapse, and you can't do that in a professional setting. So these younger players are really going to have to come in earlier, and they're able to get into these esports a lot sooner because, you know, an 18-year-old in football, in American football, is a third the size of an NFL player. It's just how you grow as a human being. There's physical limitations. There's no physical limitations in video games. I mean, technically, there's your reflex limitations that are going to happen when you are looking at a person and their ability to play games. Like a 6-year-old playing a game, you can tell when it's a 6-year-old playing a game. They can think they're doing good and they may be having fun, but you don't want the 6-year-old on your team. Let's be honest. Now, what about the guy who's queuing in Dota and you get a 6-year-old on your team and you think to yourself, not only do I have a 6-year-old on my team, but my guys, you know, they're like 16, 17, 18, because around that time you start to get really good at video games. Your reflexes are peaking up there. They're getting really high. You are able to take in things and learn them really fast. So if you really invest time in a video game, that's the best time to learn, from like 16 to 20. And then you go into your 20s, and if you've learned it, then you're set. But otherwise, you're like, man, it's really hard to get into this. I'm going to have to put in twice the time, and everyone else is putting in 12 hours. That means I don't get to sleep. And then you're worse from lack of sleep as well. So what do? But winner is the coach. So we're kind of, I feel like all the teams are getting coaches now, and I wonder if Valve encouraged that. I'm not entirely sure, but I feel like they did. I feel like they're trying to make this coaching thing an official part of Dota 2, which is that professionalism I'm talking about. If you have a coach managing the team so that you can shelter the players from the prying eyes, everything gets filtered through a coach or a manager, you stand a much better chance about presenting a professional face instead of catching somebody tweeting something or another that's really unprofessional, like, whoa, why'd they say that? And that's what's going to fill the news. That's not what you want from your players. Now, something I've been trying to do as I get towards the end of each day, I've been trying to have a little bit of community spotlight, and I got a couple of those again today. One thing that I really found that I liked, Gosu Gamers put out an article about Newbie, the Dream Team, and their progress, how they progressed from starting up as a brand new team this year to being in TI4. And that really hits home with me because when Newbie was formed, I actually cast their very first professional games. And it was so exciting, but you could also see the struggles. When they started out, Xiao 8 was not their off-laner. He was trying to captain from the 5th position, and they had somebody else off-laning, and they were struggling. I think they lost every single game I cast of them. And then they shuffled Xiao 8 to the off-lane, and they shuffled their team around a little bit. They sorted the kinks out, and now they've progressed to where everyone's like, oh, Newbie's just stomping everybody. And you're like, what? I watched them just 2 weeks ago, and they lost every single game they played. But now look at them. And Gosu Gamers has done a great article on them. They've got a few little quotes and excerpts from the individual players and how they feel. But it's just a great article overall, and it goes over their stats and their performances, all the matches they've been in, the players they play, and it's even got some highlights from their notable games. So be sure to check that out. That's on Gosu Gamers, and there's the link in the stream chat. I try and give you guys links whenever I find find these cool little things. I like you guys to be able to read what I'm just giving you kind of a brief quote and a glimpse into, because I could sit here and read the whole article, but I'd rather just condense it so you can say, hey, that interests me, or hey, I don't have time for that, and just chuck it out. That's kind of what this show is all about. On top of that, I've got another spotlight. Actually, I've got two more. So we got a triple feature today instead of just a double feature. I think I've been doing about 2 spotlights, but I've actually got 3 because they all came out today and they're all really good. Now, I actually really like this picture because they just kind of pasted Mason into it. But let me go ahead and throw this on the main screen. Team Liquid did a full team analysis of EG, and this is what I'm talking about. Mason, Zai, PPD, Mason, Universe, and RTZ. There he is. They just kind of stuck a photo. They called it Out of the Ashes, and they go over the growth and the pain of EG going from TI3 and the flop that it was. It was such a letdown at TI3, and how they've grown from sad boys into the current EG. Their gameplay, they go through all of the different play styles, what the players are known for, how they interact without the team. Very good, well-written article coming good. And definitely recommend that if you're EG fans. Go ahead and check that out. I'll throw that over there too. Final thing of the day. This is probably one of the biggest things. I was talking about free to play and how important it is for people to see how much effort people put into Dota 2 in these documentaries, and that free to play was a good start. OwnGamers.com actually has a documentary. This is actually part 2. Part 1 is on their YouTube as well, but it's a documentary that actually goes through eHome and this and how it works from being a Chinese team, how the Chinese team works overall. They're going to have 5 parts. This is episode 2 of 5. The episodes are unlisted, so these are going to be released over time on the Own Gamers website. So be sure to look for that. But they have released episode 2. Episode 1 was already out. You can get that. Episode 2 is unlisted. You got to click it from right here. And I will give you guys that link so y'all can watch episode 1 and 2. But eHome has done a documentary. Or not eHome has done a documentary. Sohu.com actually did a documentary on eHome. So if you guys really liked eHome and are like, well, what went on there? And it talks about the players that moved on to DK, because it really seems like eHome, the players coming out of eHome are what have founded and grounded DK. And now DK has grown into this top team just by acquiring players from different areas. And now they've got Ice as well. DK is extremely strong, and this is almost like the history behind it all. What's going on over there in Chinese Dota? Because Chinese culture in general is very closed bordered. It's hard to find information, and eHome was kind of an exception to that because of the fact that they didn't really prescribe to everything else in China. Everybody else played under Ace. For those of you unfamiliar with Ace, that's like the Chinese esports management. They handle the tournaments, they handle the scrims, they handle everything. If you want to be a team in China, you go through Ace. eHome didn't do that. And they were punished for it. They were really playing uphill the entire time. And so I think this will give you an insight to what DK goes through right now, what LGD goes through, what IG goes through, and what Newbie is going through. So very, very good documentary to check out. I think it is subtitles. It's done in Chinese. It's a Chinese documentary. So just one final thing to check out. And on that note, guys, I think that is going to wrap it up here for episode 3. Again, we are over halfway through now that we finished episode 3. Starting, we were right before the halfway point. Halfway through this cast, we got into the halfway point, and now we're past halfway. So we round up. We've almost finished an entire week of FletchDota. I'm really excited about this, guys. I've been finding plenty of news every single day. I didn't know going into this if I would be able to fill almost an hour every single day. I thought I would run out of news, but there's just new things happening all the time. There's all these little things that are just coming out, and I'm finding them and I'm grabbing onto them. And then of course we have a little bit of contribution coming out from you guys that are helping fill the gaps as well. So really appreciate the feedback from you. Again, you can always catch me on Twitter at FletchDota. Catch me on Twitch at MasterFletch. You're watching it right now. And you can check out my YouTube. My YouTube is FletchDota as well. I post all of the VODs on there after they're done. That way you can go back and catch any that you missed. And of course, you can always email me, masterfletch@gmail.com. So be sure, I think I actually said twitch.tv/FletchDota. My twitch.tv is actually MasterFletch as well. So you can message me on any of those and I will check it out. I love hearing from you guys, whether it's feedback, whether it's criticism, or whether it's something cool you notice that you want to see on the next episode. I'd love to hear from you guys. And that's going to wrap up episode 3. This is June 25th, 2014. We are now 3 episodes in to our first week of 5 episodes, and I'm going to call it a wrap. Again, for those of you guys who don't know, I do hang around after for viewer interaction. If you want to chat with me and get some direct feedback from me, I'll be playing a game of Dota to end my night, and I'll be talking to you guys the entire time. So be sure to hang around if you want to interact with me a little bit and, hey, get to know me or just ask questions or yell at me, whatever you want to do. Hang around and you'll see all of that. And I'm going to go ahead and end the stream here.